Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another very inspiring session, I hope, of FlexWorld series. My name is Ivan Guberkov. I'm the Vice President of Product over here at Office R&D, and I've been with the company for 6 years now. So I know most of you. I have spoken with so many operators. I have heard about so many inspiring stories. And today we're going to be discussing a favorite topic of mine, which is hospitality, something that I truly believe can set you apart if done properly, if done with passion, with enthusiasm, and if this is just a part of your DNA as a co-working space. So, without further ado, I also wanted to introduce our other panelists. I wanted to introduce Ed Hobbs from X and Y and Kenny Kane from FirmSpace, who are going to share a little bit more of their experience. Gentlemen, welcome to the session. It's a pleasure having you here. If you can introduce yourselves, that would be great.
Sure. Ed, you want to take it off?
Let's go for it. Hi there. Yeah, pleasure to be here too. I'm Ed Hobbs. I'm the national GM for X and Y. So we're a UK-based flex workspace provider with 10 workspaces across London, Birmingham, Manchester, and Milton Keynes, and also two really hospitality-focused club spaces as well. So we've been going for 5 years now. I've been with the company for 2, and yeah, I support on leading the teams and day-to-day operations across all of those sites.
Thank you very much, Ed.
Excellent. Kenny Kane from FirmSpace. Great to be here. We have 4 locations in the United States. We focus on privacy, security, and productivity for successful professionals, lawyers, financial services, and we are primarily focused on hospitality, making sure that our members have everything they need when they come into the space every day, and that we are providing 100% of the time the product that they signed up for. And that's where I feel like hospitality really comes into focus. And I'm excited for the conversation today. So thank you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for being here. I'm very excited to speak with both of you. We're going to see, I think, some different perspectives. US operator, a UK operator. Also, X and Y actually has a little bit of twist there. I know that there's a bar involved in this whole thing, so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays into hospitality. But just to move forward with the questions that I have prepared for you guys. First of all, we're talking about hospitality, and everybody knows something about it. But it's going to be really interesting to hear a little bit more from you. How do you define hospitality? And also, what is it like as a competitive advantage for you? Any examples that you can give there?
Absolutely. Maybe I'll take this first one. So
Yeah.
hospitality for us, it's it's the welcome. How can we help? And consistent touch points throughout a member or anyone who's using our space, their journey with us. With a real hunger for solutions. I think kind of adaptability has been the name of the game in Flex Workspace for some years. And to Kenny's point, making sure we're constantly keeping in touch, understanding what those needs are so we can deliver on them, I think really is the only way to stay competitive and to stay relevant. For us in particular, we've kind of taking that into different business lines. So us as a workspace provider, we actually work on operating agreements, so we don't own our own spaces. We work with various different landlords, everything from city councils. We work with Salford City Council, the building I'm in today in Greater Manchester, anything to the big banks. So we've got a building in Milton Keynes with Santander, with very different needs and very different offerings. So with the place-led design that we have in these buildings, our hospitality means our member journey could be anything from managing a front desk that services not only X and Y members, but multiple different businesses, multiple different clients, through to classic co-working floors, and then also our club spaces, which are kind of more F&B event space led. But the running theme here is that we try and create community, really trying to create tenant amenity where everyone within these spaces is encouraged to collaborate. We're a proud B Corp, and we really believe that business can be a force for good. So creating a hospitality where people want to be there and they also want to share and learn from one another. That's what hospitality means to us.
Thanks, Ed. Kenny, your perspective?
Yeah, no, I would say for me and for FirmSpace, hospitality is making sure that our members have the resources they need to come to FirmSpace every day and be successful. Our core pillars are privacy, security, and productivity. And for me and for our team, how does everything we do support those pillars, right? How does our hospitality support privacy? How does it support security, the private nature of the space, all of the business activities that go on in our space? And how do we support productivity by removing the friction with the physical and digital aspects of firm space, right? So if people are having trouble getting into their office or they're having issues with billing, how do we remove any point of friction to ensure that our members, without sounding silly, how do they think about firm space the least in terms of what they have to do every day, right? We want to be there for them. We don't want to be working against them.
Hospitality and its impact, I think it can be a fuzzy thing to understand. Like, you're investing money in it, you're trying to train your teams and all of that. Have you found some sort of a objective measure that can give you an idea of what's the impact of hospitality on your business? Are you tracking anything there?
We track a lot of things. I've got to say that's kind of the holy grail that everyone's looking for, but I don't think there is any single metric for it. I don't think there's any magic one that you can use or technology you put in that suddenly makes it all work. I mean, we use NPS as kind of a key global metric that people understand, but really I see that more as a means to find the people that you need to talk to understand more and where you can impact, rather than really a true reflection of the direct impact that hospitality has made. Typically, people are much more forthcoming when it hasn't been a great experience than when it has been a great experience. But I think for us, we're really trying to create a brand around hospitality being and world-class hospitality being the expectation rather than the exception to the rule. So really, whether someone's interacting with us for a day, coming in for a meeting, or whether we've got them for years as kind of a workspace member, or even if we're working them as a partner, we're really trying to look at kind of everyone we're working with should be getting an incredible experience where we're reducing the barriers to entry, and to Kenny's point again, kind of reducing that friction of working with us. We want to collaborate and work together as much as possible. Never be working against anyone, but certainly with our clients, creating value and creating impact rather than just creating cost, which a lot of people kind of have seen workspace as a cost to business rather than a value asset for a business.
Okay. Kenny, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I would add, we also use NPS. Coming out of the pandemic, everybody knows how to scan a QR code, and we've got them throughout the space. But I think if you're getting to that point where you're getting a survey result that's negative or neutral, you're kind of too late. And I think what we focus on is forming the relationships where we hope that our members can come up to the team and voice their concerns, voice what they would like to see in the space and how that's going. The worst case scenario is a review that's less than stellar. And just before that is the NPS. But I think really the front line is the daily engagement with the members and making sure that when people are renewing, people are signing up, you're clearly setting expectations of what you deliver as a provider and what the member is looking for. And sometimes there could be misalignment, and that's okay. And you can kind of meet in the middle and figure out what needs to happen to ensure that the experience is positive on both sides.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, moving to the other question, which is more focused on how do you put all of this in practice. I personally see that one of the pioneers, at least from my experience in terms of hospitality in the whole world, has been Four Seasons as a hotel. I've recently actually read the book of the founder of Four Seasons, and one very interesting topic there was how do you actually ensure that your team embodies the perfect guest experience philosophy in general? How do you make sure everyone is following that? And having in mind that both of your spaces are very much focused on hospitality, how do you get that? How do you make sure there's a playbook, everybody follows it, it's a consistent experience? I think that's the hardest thing out there.
Yeah, I think it just has to be consistent, because our spaces are different and because the use cases of everyone using our spaces are different. I think you can try and create a playbook that fits all needs, but actually I really believe that people's character and people's personalities have to come out to make it a really engaging space that feels authentic. So for us, just having metrics that aren't just revenue targets and revenue based, and making sure that that's a part of the way that we train and manage our teams is one of the ways that we make sure that it stays a focus. We've got to make sure to the point, it's not only at the point of a renewal or a point of the sale that we should be really focusing on building a great relationship with our clients. Like, we should be catching up with everyone as much as physically possible to make sure that we're delivering a service that's wanted and delivering a service that improves and changes with the times, because they change quick.
I would agree. And after we spoke the other day, of course, Mike,
Here you go. You have it.
I went out and I bought the book. We are consistently conveying kind of our core principles on approaching hospitality digitally, and also during training, and then ongoing through team meetings. We use an app actually called Trainual, which is the word train and manual kind of put together. One of the things that I'm proud of our staff and our team is that, and my VP of Ops kind of coined this phrase over Slack yesterday, relentless troubleshooting. And I think that's the difference between, some other offerings and perhaps what we try to do every day. And I know I've been in a hotel business center and trying to print, and there's an issue with their printer, and you go ask the person, hey, can you come help me? And I'm using a hotel as an example, and I'm sorry for any hotel operators out there, but typically the experience isn't that somebody's going to come in there and actually resolve your issue. And I think what I'm really proud of about my team is that we do train up, and we do have, I would say there's a finite amount of experiences where maybe it's a printing issue, maybe it's an IT issue, maybe there's an issue with someone's computer, which could be caused by their employer being locked down. And we've kind of seen it all at this point, 6 or 7 years in. And I think the phrase relentless troubleshooting is perfect, because you really have to be there for your member. They could be having a really critical meeting in the conference room, and if they cannot connect to your conference technology because of some reason, especially if it's something on our side that needs to be corrected, then we've failed. So I'm really proud of that aspect of what we do.
So relentless troubleshooting, I love it. The new mantra and philosophy for having a great hospitality experience in the coworking industry. I guess another one that I read, it was actually recommended by owner of a restaurant where I was very impressed by the hospitality component and the service. This is the book by Will Guidara called Unreasonable Hospitality. And I kind of mentioned it to both of you. There are some interesting examples of going beyond the expectations of your customers. Can you share any examples with us on that aspect that you can recount right now?
Yeah, and similar to Kenny, after our last chat, I actually went and started reading this book, and really interesting, and certainly going to be recommending it to a lot of our staff. I'm actually going to flip it, and I always think that we have three customers. So we have our customers, our members who use our spaces. We have our customers who are our landlords, and then we have our customers, which is our people. And the example that springs to mind for me is actually thinking about our landlords. So we work on these managed service agreements where we have kind of specific bandings of what we're meant to do within our buildings. But I think constantly having that hunger for solutions and wanting to create incredible member journeys has meant that we've ended up providing a lot more services than we originally thought that we would as a business. So that goes for when we see that there is a challenge of a member journey in the reception that isn't ours, we are going over and above to provide solutions and provide opportunities that help other businesses that aren't necessarily us to solve problems for our members. And actually that's then ended up in us now being able to offer these as business lines and new landlord partners taking us up on it. But it really takes that first step, not necessarily wanting a return on the investment. The return on the investment was a better experience for our clients. It just so happened that we could influence rather than control the outcome. So going out there and providing solutions through partners, through providers that aren't necessarily our core business has actually massively improved our reputation, also improved our brand loyalty, because it's allowed us to, we talk about business as a force for good and as our mission statement is to change the way the world works for good. And, that seems pretty moonshot, but also we're never going to do it on our own. It's always going to be us working with and working across multiple different partners in order to make that happen. So that's the one that sprang to mind from me, from that book.
Thanks.
Love that. Ed, I love your kind of your three customers. And I would say if you don't have a good relationship with your landlord or your property management, you're in a tough spot. So that's a great example. And when you mentioned that, it sprung to mind that I feel like sometimes when members sign up or companies sign up, they are jazzed, right? They're thrilled to be in the new space. They're excited. And then in comes their IT department, who has all of these sort of compliance checklists, and they're almost looking for reasons why their company cannot operate in your space, or at least that's what it feels like sometimes. So I would say for me, one of my unreasonable hospitality moments would be proving those folks wrong. Sure, we can create private VLANs, we can create private SSIDs for your folks to connect via Wi-Fi. We can install your firewall and your network equipment that you're looking for. Or we can do certain testing of our own equipment and prove to you why our current existing infrastructure is going to meet your needs. And I think that is sometimes what catches people off guard. And I feel like they have a certain bias, and I'm sorry, I'm picking on the IT people today. I feel like they have a certain bias that flex spaces aren't going to be able to meet their needs based on the diversity of the people in the space and the potential for cross traffic and other issues that they're trained to avoid at all costs. So that's a really fun example of unreasonable hospitality for firm space.
Got it. Well, thank you very much. I mean, talking about hospitality over here, sometimes it's connected with the notion of we're going to spend so much money on our service, we're going to make sure everybody loves it. It's lavish spending most of the time. So in this environment where we know it has been hard for operators, high interest rates, it's hard to make fit outs. The overall situation with the commercial real estate market is not awesome at the moment. How do you balance this desire to provide exceptional customer service with the pressure of having operational efficiency in your spaces? I think it's a very hard thing to do, and I'm just looking forward to understanding a bit more how you do it in your own spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think we all know costs have increased massively. Well, revenues haven't necessarily, and if anything, competition has only increased, which drives that down. So, for us, again, not to drive the B Corp point, because it isn't our only string to the bow, but with that, we are really averse to waste. So I think trying to be as innovative as we can and blending those two together, in an operational efficiency is not having any waste at all. So particularly now that we're running F&B, which can be a particularly wasteful side of the industry, we're just trying to be as locally sourced as possible, be creative with our menus, bring that in as a positive, and make sure that we are rising to that challenge. Because while it is an operational efficiency, it's also something that we all need to be doing. So that's where we're trying to educate and trying to inspire people to follow this process and make it a basic business instinct rather than something that you do just to manage the costs. So some examples of things we do: we create coffee liqueurs with our waste coffee. We turn out and use croissants into biscuits. And all of these are things that if we aren't selling them, then we're using them for our member events. We're using them for giveaways. Something I touched on earlier on as well is not always wanting to do it all ourselves. If we can be a platform to bring businesses in and show people the products that they're offering, bring in partners who can add to the whole, then that's another thing that we try and put in there to make sure all of our members are getting an incredible experience, but also all of the different people across our network are getting a platform to kind of connect and use what we've got, which is incredible spaces and incredible people, to just amplify the amazing work that they're doing.
Yeah, and that's great, Ed. You bring up an interesting point about food being a variable cost, and I feel like coming out of the pandemic, and I know that not a lot of us want to talk about the pandemic anymore, but coming out of the pandemic, we were really doing a lot of breakfast and lunches to try to entice people back to the office, right? How do we get occupancy back up? How do we get people out of their houses? And I think we overdid it at the time without realizing it, and it became a expectation rather than a amenity or a occasional moment of excitement. And what we did is we scaled it back because we realized that there was some waste. Maybe we picked a day to do the meal when the office wasn't particularly busy. And what we did is we brought in an honest market. So instead of just doing our kind of run of the mill, in-flight snacks, sort of, we came out and we brought in more premium snacks, and we collected feedback about what are you stepping out of the office, maybe running to the convenience store, the supermarket to go get that we could bring in-house, right? And if we had water, maybe people wanted sparkling water. If we had some sort of an energy drink, maybe they wanted a different energy drink. Point being, we brought in what people were leaving the office to go get. We priced it competitively, and we ensured that if there was some shrinkage, some loss, that it would still sort of break even. It wasn't a profit center concept. It was more of just a convenience and a value add in the space, very similar to a hotel. When you walk into a hotel late at night and you want a snack or a beverage, you can go grab one. And it's been very successful from our point of view. And we continue to iterate the products and iterate the process. And again, try to remove friction from our members' days, that they can come into the space and know, worst case scenario, they could go out and grab that piece of food or drink and continue on with their workday.
Got it. And just going back to this piece that Ed mentioned, because you guys basically have a bar, a food and beverage part of your business. Can you just give us a little bit more background? Like, how did you come up with that idea? Do you see it as a net positive right now? What is the main purpose there? Is it like a lead gen for you guys, or does it really help specifically with hospitality, this component? Can you just elaborate a little bit more on that idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got 2 club spaces at the moment. So it's nowhere near our kind of workspace business at the moment, and that's mirrored in the revenues as well. It's a much more seasonal business workspace. I mean, albeit flexible workspaces, that is probably the most fluctuating of all workspace. But it's a bit more consistent in kind of the length of time that you've got people coming in. So for us, it really was a hospitality piece, and it's around enhancing tenant amenity. In the flex world, we know that people do enjoy. We've been talking for years around hotelification and bringing additional services that make it a stickier environment, easier for people to hire, easier for people to retain their staff. These have been commonplace in flex for quite a while. And I think, again, not wanting to talk around COVID, but COVID happened, and for those kind of traditional businesses now, that is also what they want. And for landlords, trying to create extra amenity within buildings that kind of pulls in those traditional businesses, as well as having a flex aspect, is kind of how the idea was born. And I think bringing an extra diversity to our portfolio as well, there is the extra eventing. It creates a wider network of people for our workspace members to be interacting with, kind of grows that pool of people who can be doing business. So there's been lots of positive outcomes from it. It is a very different business, though. I think it's trying to run the 2 in tandem. It's not exactly the same, but when done well, they certainly work together and kind of are a value add for one another. And it's certainly something that we're going to be continuing to do into the future. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. And Kenny, from your perspective, if we treat the bar part or the clubs part of X and Y's business as an amenity, are there any amenities on your end that you found to help a lot with hospitality, or that have great perception in your customer base and they love it? What would you share there on your end?
Yeah, I would say our biggest amenity is reliability. And I am really proud that our staff comes to work every day and provides a consistent experience for our members. We do not dabble into the fresh food and beverage, as I mentioned, but I would say that we certainly have amenities that we do periodically. We have events, we have networking events that we do monthly, quarterly. We ensure that members in the space feel valued when they have lifestyle or, birthdays, family events, these sort of milestones that come through, and we get to know our members and we get to realize what those are, and really just making sure that they feel valued as a person more than just a member or a percentage of occupancy in the space. And I think the personalization of being a firm space member is one of our greatest amenities. And I'm really proud of my staff for carrying out that mission.
Okay, great. And talking about your staff, your team, and operational efficiency as well, are there any kind of systems, it might be software solutions that you're using, or any kind of process that you found to help you balance this kind of need for operational efficiency, but also this hospitality component is not lost into it? So what are your supporting systems basically to help you with this piece of the puzzle?
Yeah, so we use an app called Office R&D. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. No, I mean, in all seriousness, Office R&D coming into our lives in late 2019, early 2020, could not have been a better position for us to go into the pandemic. One of my favorite apps is called Greetly. Folks may use Greetly on their reception iPads. It's the welcome visitor app. I think there's two kind of sides to a welcome reception app on an iPad. One is you have the iPad stand in the lobby. People walk in, they figure out that they need to tap buttons on it, and then self-service to connect with people in the space. We don't do that. We keep it behind the desk. So you're always going to walk in and greet someone at the desk. And I've configured our Greetly with custom buttons, delivery with a signature required where somebody would have to come out. Your mailbox is full, please come get your mail. And these are all messages that can be received via email, phone call, or SMS. And we feel like that's a really nice way to convey sort of those transactional messages without being cumbersome or going to try to find someone in the space or trying to call them on their phone. Everyone's busy. So we feel like the personalization of having a face-to-face conversation with our visitors and then being able to convey that message back to our members with the touch of a button is probably the best you're going to get. So for me, it's Greetly.
Okay. Ed,
Great,
I
yeah,
guess, we can also segue into the next question which I had, which was again around technology, but also any kind of innovative strategies that you're using to enhance your hospitality as well. So it doesn't have to be only tech.
Yeah, in terms of strategy from an X and Y side, we're really just been trying to make our spaces as kind of dividable as possible. So multifunctional spaces that can be used for various different use cases on different days. So trying to make the most of every inch of space we've got, whether it's half of it being an event space that can turn into a 100-person space, that being breakout for people to then go and eat. Also, we do a lot of workshops, incubators. I think that's one of the main strategies that we've tried to put in, is that the space can be utilized in many different ways. Also, we use a system called Lightspeed that basically allows us, when people use QR codes and purchase things within our space, we can then work out who's buying what, get favorites, celebrate those birthdays with people's favorite wine, celebrate those special moments and be able to welcome them in with that personal touch. Completely agree with Kenny. I don't think there's any substitute for in-person hospitality. You could be the most operationally efficient, automated, go into a hotel these days. It's a really slick operation. You can just tap your phone, print out your card, you go to your room, and yes, that does a job, but I don't think it's the face-to-face personal experience that we want to create. Really, all the tools and strategies that we've got arm our people with the things they need to provide solutions, rather than avoiding the need for a person entirely.
Got it. Can you want to add anything in terms of, besides tech, is there anything like innovative that you're trying out that really helps that others are probably not doing?
Yeah, so when we launched FirmSpace, we really wanted it to be a space for the executive, right? So we are solely focused on executive suites. We don't have any hot desks or co-working. We do have a couple of offices that are dedicated for day offices. And I think one of the challenges that came out of the COVID was this concept of a hybrid, right? So a company wanted to have an office, but it wasn't going to be the same person every day. So we deployed a hybrid strategy where you could have one office and then you can pay a fee to have multiple people with access to that office. One of the caveats to that, to maintain our experience and preserve kind of the amount of people on the floor, is that you couldn't be using the office at the same time, right? You could certainly have a conference room meeting. You could be there physically, but the expectation is that you're not going to have multiple people stacking in an office on a daily basis. And again, we're just trying to preserve the density and the noise level and everything that goes into having more people in the space. So that was really well received. And I think it kind of connected the dots of life after COVID, where companies don't need so much space, but they want to have a foot in the door and be able to come every day, whether it's this person or that person. So that's one of the strategies that's really paid off for us.
Great. Well, I think we have a few minutes left, so I'm going to ask my extra question here. I was wondering, can you remember of a time where you really made a small gesture for a member of yours, a company there, but it really had a big impact on their experience and they were super happy, and it was just unexpected for you guys? I mean, can you recall anything from your long history in this industry?
But there are so many, aren't there? As soon as it's like that interview question you're not expecting, and it's like, there's a million running through my head. I mean, I've got one, and it's not really a happy story, but it really sticks with you, because I think sometimes it's the ones where you really turn a day around. And I think when there's a member who we'd got to know really well, and when they came in, they were acting differently than usual. Nothing particularly apparent that you would maybe notice if you didn't know them, but one of our senior community managers took them into a room and asked them what was wrong, and it turned out that one of their close family members had been diagnosed with cancer, and then went out, got flowers, and kind of was there with the supporting arm around the shoulder, and there was a lot of tears at first, but really after that, it just created such a deep personal connection between that member and the team that really is like, you can't really put a price on that, I think, and that's where building that connection and looking at people as people rather than just kind of customers moving through the space. That was one that really stands out to me.
Yeah, and this really shows how important it is, I think, to have the right community managers, the right team that really can be compassionate, that don't treat this just as a job, but really there's purpose behind it. You can actually help people. And I really think the example that you gave, I've heard like mental health, like being in a community, in a co-working space, this always helps. And it hasn't always been the same for all spaces. Some spaces are saying they have a community, but it's actually just an office space, some technology and that helps you to get in and out. Yeah, it's frictionless and all that. But really this example, I've seen it where community managers really do care, especially for people that are like on a remote team or just a few of them in a space. This can really make a difference. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. That definitely proves it. Kenny, you had the time to actually think about it, so yeah.
Well, if you've been noticing, my strategy throughout this call has been to let Ed answer everything first, and then I formulate my answer after he's delivered his very
I've noted it down for our next call, Kenny.
I would say, one of my proudest parts of working at FirmSpace and being involved since the beginning is we still have our very first member who signed up for FirmSpace before our first location here in Austin, Texas, had opened. He came in during a hard hat tour. The space was very raw, but he was able to see kind of the vision. And I think being on this adventure, which it has certainly been an adventure, and having him along for the ride as a lawyer and someone who, needs the space for all of the important reasons that he does, just forming that relationship and that deep connection where for many points in time, he has been a litmus test. Hey, how are we doing? Are we still the company that you signed up for? Are we still delivering on our promises? And everything that goes along with that, the birth of children and milestones and Just this mutual respect, I think, that we have as a provider and as a consumer, and beyond that as friends. That to me is probably the most proud that I can be in terms of retention of the first person that ever signed up, and it's been wonderful. So I don't know that I have a clear example of an issue. I would say one of my favorite parts about customer service, and this goes back to being a teenager in a drugstore, helping people with their medicine, is turning your customers who may be upset or may have an issue with your service, and turning them around and making them your evangelist, right? And how do you navigate through all the reasons why they're upset, which a lot of times it just is born out of a misunderstanding or a misalignment of expectations, kind of what I was saying earlier from the sales process, and really turning them into someone who's going to speak to how great your company is because you've been able to help them and resolve their issues. And it's not a lot of that, but when there is, it's really an opportunity to lean into it and make sure that they feel like their concerns are being heard, and then working through them and making them come out the other end feeling like they couldn't go anywhere else. That to me is a great day.
Thank you, Kenny. Well, since we're kind of out of time and there's much more that we can talk about this topic, I just wanted to summarize it from my own experience visiting all kinds of different co-working spaces. Really, the biggest difference between just going into a shiny office, it might be very lavishly built out and all that, and remembering it, wanting to come back, it has always been the community team, the people that are in there, hopefully seeing the CEO, the founder, making sure that all the small details are taken care of. So basically the whole user experience, even in the physical space, is well thought out. This has always been the thing that I believe has differentiated the experience for me. I still remember all the spaces where I really loved it, and we still know each other with the community managers there. So just as a general advice, I think you got the point, but if you are building a co-working business without hospitality, without great customer service, it's just another office. So invest in your team, invest in technology, and really try to stay close to your customers. And I guess retention and all the benefits of that would come after that as a result. So yeah, that's the closing remark for me. Kenny, Ed, I really appreciate your time here, guys. I wish you all the best in the business. I know you have some great spaces, and I hope to see you both in person soon. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Enjoy the rest of the day, everyone.
Bye.